Astrofiend, and I'm back with this video. For this video, I will be analyzing the characters on the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So this is an astrological analysis of the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer's characters. And for this one, I'm excited because Buffy the Vampire Slayers is one of my favorite shows. I remember towards the more middle to end of Buffy that I watched it during its run, because I was too young during its earlier seasons, but as I got older I was peeping ish. I was like, ooh, this is interesting. Oh, what's going on? Okay, cool. And it was interesting, so I watched it for it was on and off, but when I got older I understood it better, so I was able to enjoy it better. And so I rewatched it a couple of times, and it's just amazing, and especially random. But if you're a young adult and you just want to know, if you're going through college, different young adult experiences, then this is just a great show because it can relate to you in college, or you becoming older and growing up. And it's just a cool series to watch about growing up, college, and it's also interesting. It's entertaining as F, and yeah, Buffy's amazing. And yeah, so I was excited about this, and let's just get into it because this video is gonna be mad long, so let's just get into it. Aquarius Sun. Technically I didn't give her Aquarius Sun. I believe on the website that I use for the fan page, she's an Aquarius Sun, but to be honest, I've noticed on the show there's different birth dates for her. I believe for one there's a Libra Sun, and with that there's screenshots on the computer in the show, the old school big ass computers that they had back then. They show Buffy's school records, and it has Libra Sun on there. But then in another it's Capricorn Sun, or the years change. So for this on the website, just decided with Aquarius Sun because it makes the most sense. But I gave Buffy Summers Aries Rising, Aquarius Sun, Capricorn Moon, Aquarius Venus, and Pisces Mars. And Buffy Summers played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Sarah has an Aries Sun, a Pisces Moon, and an Aries Venus. For Buffy, I decided these placements because in general, just to give her her characterization, she's very independent, boss ass woman, extremely protective and stands up for people, emotionally, physically, and mentally strong, confident, assertive, direct but not aggressively angry. She's responsible and reliable, but at the same time she's that way because she has to be. And throughout the show she felt trapped by slaying, and for the majority of it didn't want that responsibility. You can imagine you're just this random high school teenager just living your best life, then out of nowhere suddenly you develop these strong these abilities where you have strength, and you could beat up football players, and all of a sudden vampires are attracted to you, and it's vampires and you have to kill them. That's a lot of pressure. Anyway, Buffy Summers, she uses humor, sarcasm, and wit to mask her pain. If you notice in the show, she has these witty comebacks when she's fighting these monsters. She kind of taunts them in a way. She taunts them haha, I'm gonna kill you, you're gonna be dust, heh heh heh. And they know it. She knows it. They know it. And it's just like a cool way for her to like enjoy like the physical part of slaying. Like the emotional part is where she has difficulty in, but the physical part supports her character and why I gave her certain placements, like an Aries rising. Like Aries rising, like especially for the first five birth points, like that's so Aries rising, that's so Aquarius sun, that's that masculine sort of energy. And she's also in some ways very detached, and she sometimes runs away from her problems, and I attribute that more to the Capricorn moon, Aquarius, Venus, Pisces, Mars energy. And just to give an example, after the whole thing with Angel where she had to kill him, she got into an argument with her mother when she revealed that she's a slayer. And just like that combined with the fact that she killed the love of her life, she ran away. She took off for a couple of months. She didn't tell anyone where she was going, and she couldn't deal with it, and that's understandable. Like, there's different ways that people deal with problems. Some of them like face it head on and just are angry. Some people decide to like run away or like retreat so they can heal. It's just different ways. Not saying there's a right and a wrong way. In her situation, that was kind of a wrong way, but you can understand it. And the main thing with Buffy is that she's very collaborative, and she likes working with others, aka the Scooby Gang, aka her friends. And that's like an Aquarius sort of trait. Like they could be very independent, but at the same time they are an air sign, so they like being around people. They like communicating with people. They like collaborating with people. And yeah, so that's Buffy's placements. Joyce Summers is Buffy's mother, and for Buffy's mother, I gave her Pisces sun, an Aquarius moon, and Virgo rising. Joyce Summers is a minor character, but she's Buffy's mom, so she is an important but very minor character. And for Joyce, for much of the early part of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she was very clueless, more like in denial, but clueless about Buffy slaying. And when she found out about Buffy, she was very intolerant and disbelief of her slaying, even though Buffy literally slayed a vampire right in front of her before she told her that she was in Slayer. Because her mom was like, what the hell? What's going on? And Buffy had to like pretty much tell her. And Joyce was pretty much living in La La Land about the whole like slaying thing and supernatural thing. Like, to be honest, if you're logical about it, if your daughter like is slaying, there's signs. Like Buffy was saying, how come you didn't know? There was you do my laundry, you washed the blood out of my clothes. You didn't have a reason. Like you didn't wonder, you didn't think that maybe like what's up with all this blood in her clothes? Why is her clothes like all teared up? And we're just assuming that's from fighting, but it's a pretty logical assumption. Like, if she's fighting all these like monsters and vampires and all that stuff, imagine all the stains that are on her clothes. Ugh. Like the creature's blood and guts and stuff like that. Like, come on now. And if her mother does some laundry, she don't notice that. That's kind of crazy. Like, I'll be like, what's going on? Like, why do I have all these weird stains and blood and stuff? Anyway, that's what Buffy was explaining. Like, how could you not know, Mom? Like, how could you not know there's something going on? Maybe not slaying, but come on now. You're living freaking La La Land. I would say that Buffy's mom was able to adjust very quickly to Buffy slaying, even though she didn't like it. And just to give you an example, I recently, well, not recently, but I've been rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I'm on season 4 now. But for the majority of like my time, I was on season 3, and season 3 is the introduction of Faith, who's the vampire that's activated after Kendra, I think that's her name. The other Slayer dies, and Joyce, like, during this time also is on Buffy's senior year, so she's thinking about colleges, and Buffy's afraid that she may not be able to like attend college because of her Slayer duties. And the way that Joyce chose to adapt to it is that like she knows about Buffy's like Slayer life, and she like suggested that, hey, maybe since Faith, the other Slayer is around, maybe you can go to college away, and you could think about college and not put so much of the responsibility of slaying in Sunnydale on you. And Joyce, like, she was very adaptable, which is also why I gave her a Pisces sun and a Virgo rising. I gave her a Virgo rising because, I mean, she could be a Libra rising too, to be honest. But I gave her a Virgo rising because she's very orderly and organized, and she has her own business, so she has to be organized with artifacts and stuff like that. So very focused, that sort of focus, but still mutable energy. And yeah, like, to be honest, I did it for vanity reasons, to be honest, giving Joyce a Virgo rising, because to me, like, she looks like a Virgo rising to me. Like, very like simple clothing, not too flashy, simple hairstyle, very clean looking, and yeah. And I gave an Aquarius moon because she's very detached from her like emotions and what's going on with Buffy. Like, she tries to be involved, but like she's just failing at it. She tries to discipline Buffy, but she can't. I mean, I feel sorry for Joyce in a little way, because like she tries to be a authoritarian figure for Buffy, but she can't be, because that's Buffy's destiny, to be a Slayer. Sometimes Buffy has to break the rules. Sometimes she can't like do what her mother says. So I would say Joyce is played by the actress Kristen Sutherland, and Kristen has an Aries Sun, Aquarius Moon, and a Pisces Venus. Before I start with Dawn, I just want to say that the way I'm going about it for like the different characters is I was gonna go in a particular order with like the main characters first, and then the supporting characters afterwards. But I decided to just go with the characters that are connected to Buffy. And with Buffy, I started with her family, and then I'm going to get into the relationships parts. So, like, it's not in any particular order of importance or anything like that. It's just based on, like, close connections to, like, family, friends, relationships, that sort of thing. So when I get to other characters, I'm also going to show you their relationships. Anyway, with Dawn Summers, for Dawn, I gave her a Libra Sun, a Cancer Rising, and a Pisces Moon. And she's the annoying little sister Buffy that appeared out of nowhere on, I believe, season 5 or 6. I think it was 6. And technically, she was never born. She was like this ball of energy. Like, I suggest watching to like understand, watching Buffy to understand it more, but she just appeared. She was fabricated and put into Buffy's life so Buffy can protect her. So technically she isn't real and she really isn't a human, but it's portrayed in the show that she's always been around. She's always been the annoying little sister. We just never seen her before. But that's not true. And that, by the way, the characters act like she's always been there, but she really hasn't. Anyway, for Dawn Summers is also kind of a difficult character because, I mean, she started out as like the annoying little sister, and she's also like coming into her own. Like, she has her own like growing pains, so she like often feels invisible and left out and useless. And I attribute that more to her youth and the fact that she's like just like seen as like an annoying little sister. It's not necessarily like a character trait, but that's part of her development, her character development. And for Dawn, she's very smart. She's a fast learner. She's very curious, and she could be kind of moody, a little bit rebellious, and sometimes do stupid things. And part of that, the stupid things part, but it's also part of her personality too. And like, she does things out of spite. Like, if she's mad at Buffy, she'll lash out. And I see that more with the Pisces moon, like Cancer, like rising sort of energy that I gave to her. And yeah, especially like with Cancer's like a cardinal air sign, so sorry, cardinal water sign. And like, I would say that Dawn is a doer. Like, if she pissed off, she goes somewhere. If you piss her off, she's gonna do something to spite you. Like, and that's very like cardinal. They like start things. Not necessarily that she's like going around being rah trying to fight people, trying to be like an asshole on purpose, but she just does things, if that makes any sense. Anyway, for Dawn Summers, she's played by Michelle Trachtenberg. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I should know her name because she was on Gossip Girl, but whatever. Anyway, Michelle has a Libra Sun, a Virgo Moon, and a Virgo Venus. To get into the relationship with Buffy's mother and sister, with Buffy's mom. As I mentioned before, Buffy's mom is very much in like La La Land. She's like in denial, selective denial about Buffy's slaying and the supernatural parts and elements of her slaying responsibility. But at the same time, since Buffy's mom, I gave her like a couple like mutable placements, mutable energy. Like, she's able to adjust to the situation, which is good on Buffy because she's not constantly on her back. I mean, she's still a mother, so she naturally is, but she isn't like trying to control the situation or trying to make it worse or step in or anything like that with the other like kind of quality placements. And with Dawn, as I said before, like, she wasn't really born, she just appeared. But just to get into it a little bit more, spoiler, by the way, all this stuff is spoilers, so if you're mad that I'm giving spoilers, oh well. But for Buffy, since Buffy wasn't aware that her sister isn't really her sister and isn't really a human, like, she wasn't born, since for much of that season Buffy wasn't aware, like, it was just normal for her to protect her. But then when she realizes it, like, it's still normal for Buffy to protect her because she always knew Dawn to be her sister. And the dynamics of older sister, younger sister, older sibling, younger sibling is that the older sibling will always protect the younger sibling. And whatever the case, like, Buffy to Dawn is an annoying, like, little sister. And it's more not necessarily like a character trait, as I mentioned before, or part of who Dawn is or anything like that. It's just like growing pains. Like, if you have younger siblings, your younger sibling at some point was annoying to you and you wanted to get away from them. It's normal. But with Buffy and Dawn, other than like the growing pains that they're experiencing and like her being like the annoying little like sister, they actually have a good relationship. I would say that sometimes Buffy can be too detached, so she doesn't think about Dawn and her own feelings and what Dawn may be going through. But Buffy is like that with everyone. Like, since she has such a huge responsibility, sometimes Buffy gets carried away. And that's like her Aquarius placements, or especially Buffy's Capricorn moon. Like, ugh, that alone. Like, they take a lot of responsibility. And sometimes, like, it could push people away because people may feel that the Capricorn, like the Capricorn part of Buffy's energy, is like they're her responsibility, and if they weren't her responsibility, then she wouldn't care about them, if that makes any sense. But for him, I gave him a Taurus sun, Pisces rising, Scorpio moon, Taurus Mars, and Taurus Venus. I was kind of bit I'm sorry, Aries Venus. I was kind of a bit undecided with the Venus part, and I decided to give Angel an Aries Venus because it makes the most sense. Maybe like Venus retrograde, if that makes any sense. Like an Aries Venus retrograde, because Aries, a misconception about Aries is that like they're very rah, they're very this and that. But I would say Aries is not really a sort of possessive sign. I know that sounds crazy, but no. Aries is not possessive. Like Aries, if they want you, they want you. If they don't want you, they don't want you. They want someone that's strong and that can do their own thing. Maybe like with him, like he's not necessarily like a possessive person. And again, with this other like Taurus placements, he's very calm. But you know what? I'll get more into that later. Anyway, with Angel, he's played by David Born. I don't know how to pronounce that. For all these years that I've known this actor, I never know how to pronounce his name. Whatever, David B. from Bounds, you know. Anyway, David has a Taurus sun, a Taurus moon, and an Aries Venus. He's a love interest to Buffy. And just to give you a backstory, back in his day, he was a rich, entitled, pleasure-seeking playboy who wanted adventure and freedom, and he was turned into a vampire by an evil older vampire named Darla. Then he went on an evil, hedonistic killing spree until he became cursed with a soul. And with Angel, he, in his vampire like alter ego, Angelus, like he enjoyed killing because he thought of it as like some sort of hobby, some sort of art form. Yeah, he's a creeper. But then he got a soul, so he was cursed with a soul. To be honest, to be cursed with a soul, like, that's not really a curse. It would be better if he was cursed with a conscience, because like a soul is a very like human thing, and I guess like being a vampire, since you die and you're reborn again, like you don't get a soul, but I guess a soul would be a conscious. Okay, I'm getting like off topic. Anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much his story. So for much of his role on Buffy, there's a brooding, tortured soul type, very protective. He's tall, dark, and handsome, quiet. He's both a protagonist and an antagonist. And just his character themes are pleasure, evil, pain, and redemption. Blah, 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 blah. I would say that in retrospect, when I rewatched Buffy in my adulthood, for most of Angel on Buffy, in the show Buffy, like, he's kind of boring, to be honest. And no offense to Tauruses, but I gave him a Taurus sun because with a Scorpio moon and a Taurus Mars, like, he was just boring. Like, he didn't really do anything. Like, the most exciting part was when he became evil, and it wasn't that exciting, to be honest. Like, yeah, you're evil, we get it, you do evil things, you do bad things, woohoo, whoop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. Anyway, but in terms of astrology, I gave him a Pisces rising because of the redemption part, and like the Neptunian sort of part, like that brooding, tortured soul mixed in with Scorpio moon. If you notice with my other video for Roswell, for one of the characters, I believe it was Liz Parker, I gave her like a Pisces moon and a Venus in Scorpio, and those mixed together is like mixed with death. So there's like, especially with Scorpio energy, there's like a sort of like transformation sort of energy, like you have to die in order to be reborn again, and you have to go through all this pain, and you have to give other people pain. You don't have to, but that's what these placements often do in a chart. Like, you're supposed to learn, you're supposed to grow, and part of learning and growing is transformation. Like, you have to kill that part of yourself. And with Angel's story, is literally like, he was a pleasure seeking rich asshole boy who hated his father. By the way, some of what I'm talking about with Angel is not actually in Buffy, but it's also in the series, the spin-off series named Angel. So Angel got his own spin-off. So some of the stuff that I'm mentioning is also like related to like the series Angel. But it's just very redemptive, and it's just him learning what his life path is and learning about himself. And this is kind of like a stereotype, but I gave an Aries Venus for Angel because he likes violence. He enjoys violence. To be honest, even Buffy enjoys violence. That's why I gave her like an Aries like rising. And to be honest, this is gonna sound weird, but violence is very human, so it makes sense for humans to enjoy violence. I won't say that violence is a good thing, but sometimes violence can be a necessary thing. It's sad, but it's true and it's logical, so. The next character that we have is Riley Finn, and Riley Finn is an Aries Sun, Taurus Moon, and a Cancer Rising. Those are the placements that I gave him. And Riley is played by Marcus Blucas. Marcus has a Capricorn Sun, Scorpio Moon, and a Taurus Venus. For Riley, Riley is Buffy's college boyfriend who's a human, and he's her TA, and he's also doubles and has a secret life as a government soldier that hunts a secret government soldier that hunts demons. And he's a loyal and prideful government soldier and love interest to Buffy. He's strong, sensitive, independent, and a dependable guy. He's pretty much like the perfect boyfriend, the ideal boyfriend, as compared to like an Angel who's pretty much unavailable. And towards like the end of their relationship, he was there for about like 2 seasons. He starts to feel insecure about his abilities with Buffy, and literally her ability to slay, literally and figuratively. And you know, he's like this big buff soldier guy, and he's like in a relationship with a woman who's like has more strength than him, physical strength, and just like is doing like amazing and exciting things according to him, so he feels insecure. And it's weird because he kind of develops an addiction to letting vampires drink blood from him. Yeah, so he pretty much like leaves Buffy and tells her like, you either get your act together or I'm leaving. Which pretty much is him like trying to force her hands, and he's just very insecure. Okay, to get into Buffy's romantic and sexual relationships. Again, Buffy's an Aries rising, Aquarius Sun, Capricorn Moon, Aquarius Venus, and Pisces Mars. For Angel, I gave him a Pisces rising, Taurus Sun, Scorpio Moon, Aries Venus, and Taurus Mars. And between him and Buffy, it's her first love, her first everything, a mysterious older man. And to be honest, I feel that Buffy projected all her hopes and dreams onto Angel, and she clearly didn't see like she didn't clearly see like him and who he is. And it was just a very like sexual, lusty, and passionate relationship. And Angel protected her, and pretty much the relationship ended when Angel broke up with her because he didn't want to rob her of her future and or stand in the way of her happiness and human experiences, such as having the kids, feeling the sun, going on long walks on the beach at sunset, you know, that sort of experiences. And between their astrology, they both have squared suns and sextile moons, sextile Venuses, and sextile Mars signs. So it was a very like good, comfortable relationship. But clearly Buffy was more into Angel than he was into her. And part of the reason was Angel's own insecurities for being a vampire and for not like giving Buffy what she needed. Because like to be in a relationship with a vampire, like that is a bit odd, and like how the logistics of it. Like she can't bring him around during the daytime. He like drinks blood, so imagine if like they're in the middle somewhere and he can't like have any blood. Like just like the logistics of it, like it can work theoretically, but what if like Buffy wanted more? And I guess Angel didn't want Buffy somewhere down the line to resent Angel. Anyway, the next I guess romantic relationship was with Riley, who's her college human boyfriend, who was also a secret government soldier hunting demons. And I gave him a Cancer rising, Aries sun, and a Taurus moon. To be honest, I think he's much more compatible and relational with Buffy on a friendship and a romantic level. To be honest, the relationship Buffy had with Angel was kind of boring to me. He literally just like stared at her and it was just like, it was cute and all, and there's definitely like more sexual tension, but to me it was just boring. Like, to be honest, Angel and Buffy was like on the show Buffy, like he was boring. To be honest, he was much more interesting in his own like spin-off show Angel than on Buffy. And yeah, like it was just like ugh. It was cute and all that, but it wasn't like ugh. But anyways, I would say Riley was kind of boring, but it was just like a perfect healthy relationship. And whatever the case, like Riley, like he got insecure with Buffy and couldn't handle her slaying. Like she was a strong ass whole ass person, and Riley, like he was also strong, but he felt insecure because maybe he just wanted to be like the strongest and the one to protect her out of the relationship. And between them, they had sextile suns, trine moon signs together, and squared risings. So there was always that like tension between them. They were both self-starters. They're both very strong, and I gave them both cardinal rising signs. Buffy, Aries rising sign, and Riley, a Cancer rising sign. So they're both very self-starters. They're both leaders, and maybe like in this situation, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Like they're too similar, and maybe that was a part of their relationship. And they had too similar of a role in their relationship, which is why Riley was probably insecure about it. The last is, I don't call this a relationship. This is more like a hookup, an extended hookup, where they are both in bad situations in their life. And this is with Spike, and I gave Spike a Leo rising, a Cancer sun, Cancer moon, Taurus Venus, and a Leo Mars. And again, Spike wasn't, I don't consider her quote unquote relationship with Spike, but it was an extended hookup. Buffy was at a low point in her life and she was depressed, and Spike pretty much convinced himself that he was in love with Buffy. I don't really think he was in love with Buffy, and I just consider this an unhealthy relationship, an unhealthy hookup, where Buffy, she was in a dark place. She had so much shame and sadness, while Spike was just projecting his own frustrations, his own insecurities, his loneliness, his hopes and dreams onto Buffy. During this part in Spike's storyline, he had a chip that the government agents, the people that Riley like works for and reported to, like gave him so he could stop killing humans. So in a sense, he was defanged. He was demasculated, and even though I don't think that was the case, but just to describe his situation and how I assume Spike felt. So he was insecure. Like previously, Drusilla left him for another demon, like a chaos demon, because he wasn't demon enough for her, which I guess contrast, like he wasn't evil enough, he wasn't man enough. And then to add that with him being a chip put into his brain where he couldn't kill human beings. And I guess Spike, he likes strong women. Like Drusilla, as much as she was like very like crazy and weird and weak, was at a weakened state when she was introduced with Spike in season 2. But he likes strong women overall. And Buffy, she was like the ultimate. She was strong. And to be honest, Buffy like kept giving Spike chances, not in terms of relation, but as like a character and as a human being. Well, not a human being, but as a being around her. Like, Buffy could have killed him a long time ago, but since they had like Spike was such an interesting, good character, the writers like Joss Whedon, like behind the scenes, like decided to extend his role. But like even within like the series, Buffy kept giving him chances. And to be honest, I don't think Buffy ever like after a while ever wanted to like kill him. She was like, whatever, he's just annoying, he's not really doing anything, whatever, I'm not gonna kill him. But yeah, like, so maybe in Spike's weird ass mind, like, he thought, oh, Buffy must like me since she doesn't want to kill me. It's kind of like the reverse of like, as like a kid, like as a child, like you're thinking, oh, because someone's not mean to me, then, well, yeah, it's a reverse of like, since Buffy's not being mean to him, that she likes him, or just because she's not trying to kill him, that means that she likes him and all that other crap. But anyway, in terms of astrology, it's a complex like synastry, but it's the most interesting out of all the other two sort of romantic relationships. And in terms of astrology, like, they have trine rising signs, with Spike being a Leo rising and Buffy being an Aries rising. They have opposite moon signs, which, like, you know, it's like tension and brings out like the complicity, the complex like relationships dynamics between the twos. They have squared Venuses, and it's just, I would say it's the most complex and most interesting pairing, because I don't think their relationship, it clearly wasn't healthy at all. And spoiler alert, Spike raped Buffy, so that's like, no, fuck out of here. Like, that's not a relationship. Like, that's just an extended hookup based off of like depressing circumstances. Next is Darla, and Darla, I gave her an Aries sun, Taurus moon, and Gemini rising. And just a backstory, and the backstory I'm giving you is not necessarily one that was portrayed in Angel. I mean, in Buffy, but was portrayed in the spin-off series Angel. So she was a prostitute who became wealthy but was dying of syphilis before she was turned into a vampire by the Master, who was like this big vampire that Buffy killed in season 1. But as a vampire, like, she wanted to be powerful and enjoy life. And even though when I first like watched Buffy, I thought Darla was like the shit. Like, not that she was my favorite character, but I thought she was more important than she actually was in the show. But like, Darla, I mean, she was an evil vampire bitch who turned angel. She was selfish, shameless, and sneaky. Like she clearly like wanted enjoyment and like wanted to have fun and just like, you know, not care about anything. And clearly she was driven much to Angel about like hedonistic lifestyle, like enjoying life to the fullest, killing to the fullest, being stylish in the fullest sense. Like if you notice that like Angel and Buffy, like every period, like she was decked out in like the styles of that time. Like when we see her being introduced in Buffy, she had like this Catholic schoolgirl outfit, and which was very 90s. But again, I don't think she was as important character as she seemed to be. Even in Angel, like I haven't finished the series Angel, but even though she gave Angel a human baby, like spoiler by the way, but she wasn't that interesting to me in hindsight. Anyway, Darla is played by Julie Benz, and Julie has a Taurus sun, a Sagittarius moon, and a Gemini Venus. Next is Xander Harris, and for Xander, on the website that I used, they gave him an Aquarius sun, and I think in the show he actually I think he either celebrated his birthday a little bit after Buffy or before Buffy, and it was around that time. And since Buffy's an Aquarius sun, he's also an Aquarius sun. Anyway, he has an Aquarius sun, a Libra rising, a Sagittarius moon, a Scorpio Venus, which is very rare, and a Taurus Mars. And for Xander Harris is played by Nicholas Brandon. Nicholas has an Aries sun, Scorpio moon, and a Pisces Venus. Xander throughout the series, Xander Harris, he's very fun. He's open-minded, optimistic, kind-hearted, loyal, and brave. And for much of the series, he's in love with Buffy, but it never really amounts to anything. Like, he has a crush on Buffy, and he's in love with Buffy, but it never really amounts to anything. And he was everyone's cheerleader and the show's comic relief, along with Spike for a little bit. But, yeah, that's very Sagittarius moon. He's immature, mediocre, and underachiever, to be honest. He's extremely lucky. Like, all the battles that he faced, all the demons and vampires, like, he was never seriously harmed in any way. I mean, if you count like him losing an eye, but no, that doesn't really count, because even like one of my favorite Xander sayings is like when he lost his eye to like the last like ultimate like antagonist of the show, and he says that there's a party in my eye socket and everyone's invited. Like, that made me love Xander as a character. I'm like, really, Xander? You lost your eye and this is what you say? Like he's very optimistic, even like in the face of like struggle. Like, he was the person that like calms like dark Willow down after like she went on a killing rampage and wanted to destroy the world. Like, he was the one that got to her. Anyway, he doesn't have emotional depth, but he has a rare ability to be very insightful, which goes into his optimistic, open-hearted nature. And just to give you a correction, in an earlier slide I said Scorpio Venus. I meant Aquarius Venus, not Scorpio Venus. But yeah, Xander was just a good character. The comic relief, very enjoyable. Like, he had a Libra rising, very pleasant, and again like kind-hearted. Yes, he was a bit shady, and that's like more of the that's more sorry of the Sagittarius moon side. Very loyal. Like, he was very consistent on the show. Like, he didn't really deviate and had that much like external growth. It was more internal growth, like becoming more mature. But he didn't have that much growth compared to other characters. And he had a Cancer Mars, and if you notice later on, I'm gonna talk about this more, but in his relationships with his romantic relationships, he's attracted to strong women that, in a sense, like, kind of take care of him in some sort of way. But yeah, Xander is an amazing character. The next character is Cordelia Chase, and for Cordelia, I gave her a Leo Sun, a Gemini Moon, Virgo Venus, Aries Mars, and an Aries Rising. Cordelia Chase is played by Charisma Carpenter. Charisma has a Leo Sun, Aries Moon, and a Virgo Venus. Cordelia Chase, she's the main bully, cheerleader, sometimes acquaintance of Buffy and the Scooby Gang. She's a former love interest to Xander, and in the spin-off series Angel to Angel. She's the head bitch in charge, HBIC. In Buffy, she's very mean, shallow, and vain, but she's also very low-key funny. She's immature. She's also very strong. She's confident, strong, and shameless about who she is and what she represents. She's definitely a leader and not a follower. She knows who she is. And I would say that her character carries on the spin-off series Angel. And she kind of deems herself on Angel because Cordelia was pretty much just mean for pretty much the whole season. A mean bitch on Buffy. Let's be honest, she was very mean. She was very funny, and she had some good moments, but overall, like, she was mean. But again, she was very strong and confident, and I would say her best qualities on Buffy was just her confidence and her strength. Like, she had no problem standing up to Buffy and letting her tell Buffy about herself. And that's like a very Aries, Leo sort of energy. And she was like, for the moon sign, it was a bit hard for me, but I gave her a Gemini moon because she was very changeable. Like, one minute she's like hating on Buffy and the Scooby Gang, next minute like they're hanging out and being friends, and that's just very like odd to me. She's also, I gave her Virgo Venus because like she was very like picky. Like, if you ask anything about her like comments and her like mean like sarcastic, not sarcastic but like mean wit, like she was very picky and detail oriented. She'll like comment on someone's outfit and just say some really shady but also true things. I also gave her like an Aries Mars because like when she had to defend herself, she defended herself. She wasn't like cowering in some corner. I would say she was a good fighter compared to like Buffy and like other like supernatural beings on the show, but like if she had to, she'll defend herself. And yeah, the next character is Anya Jenkins, and just to give you a backstory on her, she was a vengeance demon that was turned human. So she started off as an antagonist, but she was really a protagonist in disguise of an antagonist because she was like a demon for like, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 episodes, and then like she was like pretty much human. Anyway, for Anya, I gave her a Cancer Sun, Aries Moon, Leo Venus, Gemini Mars, and Virgo Rising. And Anya Jenkins, she's played by Emma Caulfield, Emma has an Aries Sun, Cancer Moon, and Aries Venus. And Anya in the show was a love interest to Xander. And since she was a demon for much longer than she was a human, like she's a very odd character. She often lacks empathy and social cues because she was a demon before. She was a human, then she was a demon, and she was a demon more than she was a human, and then she became a human. So like she's learning how to be a human again. Very strong-willed. She's funny in the character. She was a very funny character to me, but she was very adaptable and open to new experiences. And as she was becoming human, she was strangely nurturing, especially in regards to Xander. And this just goes to show you like her like astrology, like Gemini is very open to new experiences. Strangely nurturing, Cancer Sun, strong will, Aries Moon, and Leo Venus. But yeah, this is Anka Jenkins. I'm also going to be getting into Xander's relationships, and what if the theme is growing up and manning up. And the first relationship that we see for Xander Harris is Cordelia. And to be honest, the relationship to me was purely based on convenience, just being around each other, and just that lust and like sexual tension. Like they're both horny high school teenagers. And Cordelia's position, she's like the most popular and beautiful girls, and honestly indirectly gave Xander a confidence and a boost, clout. And pretty much the relationship ended when Cordelia broke up with Xander because he cheated on her with his best friend Willow. And to get into their astrology, they have opposite rising signs, moon, and sun signs. To be honest, when I was choosing and figuring out what signs for each characters, like this was like by coincidence, like them having opposite rising signs, opposite moon signs, and opposite sun signs. They also have squared Mars signs. Like this relationship, as I mentioned before, it's just convenience and mostly like lust. They didn't have anything in common other than the fact that they were very honest people. And I would say like Xander's a very honest and open person, so that was probably one of the only things that they had in common. But to get into the next relationship is with Anya, and again she used to be a man-hating demon, but then she was turned back to a human being. And during that time she got into a relationship with Xander. She learned how to act and be a human being. But with Anya's story is weird because something happened, and then she became a vengeance demon again, and then she regretted she did something crazy, and since she developed empathy for the time she was a human, she wanted to stop being a vengeance demon. So you have to watch Buffy to like see it. But honestly, that's the best relationship that Xander have throughout his storyline and throughout Buffy. Like Anya and him are very honest and frank with each other. Plus, there was great sexual tension. And it also forced Xander to grow up. But I would say the relationship, it moved too fast. That's why in the end of Buffy, like it didn't go anywhere. Also, Anya, spoiler alert, but Anya was killed during the final like episode. But yeah, the relationship moved too fast, and they were both very immature and impulsive. And to get into their astrology, both Anya and Xander, they have trine moon signs, with Xander being a Sagittarius moon and Anya being an Aries moon.
And they also have sex-styled Mars signs, which means they're great. Well, they're good, not great. Trine is great. Sex-style is good. But like good in terms of like sexuality and sensual tension. And it's more of a natural sort of thing. Like, just to go back with Cordelia, like their relationship was based on sexual tension, but it was like more difficult, aggressive sexual tension. I know with Cordelia, she kind of like had to hide that she liked Xander, and her friends shamed her for it and all that stuff. And Xander just felt weird because he felt like Cordelia, being Cordelia, was kind of mean. And but in terms of Anya and Xander's relationship, it was just more natural and easier going. And part of it's because of like their trine moon signs and also their sextile Mars signs. And now to get into Willow, like just to give you a backstory, Xander and Willow are childhood best friends who briefly hooked up and cheated with each other when they were in their first like healthy romantic relationships. Willow was with Oz and Xander was with Cordelia. And throughout like the first couple of seasons, Willow was actually in love with Xander, but he never noticed her and treated her like she was in second place. To be honest, Xander was and is very immature, and he pretty much took Willow for granted. And when she moved on, he was like, huh? And then when they finally were in like their first healthy like sort of relationships, they're like, oh, now I see you. They both saw each other. Anyway, in terms of their astrology, they have squared rising and moon signs, opposite sun signs, and conjunct Mars signs. So they were never really meant to be in a relationship with each other. And if you notice, like they cheat on each other, but it wasn't emotional, it was more like physical. So they're physically attracted to each other, and that could like symbolize their conjunct Mars signs that I gave to like them. And they had opposite sun signs. So again, like I noticed with like a lot of opposite placements, it's the whole opposites attract thing. And they have a lot of square and opposites between them, their synastry that I gave to them. And yeah, so it was like this opposites attracts weird sort of sexual tension thing going on. Because I notice when people say opposite attracts, I don't agree with that. I think like attracts like, if that makes any sense. And opposite attracts is usually when people like have great sexual chemistry. That's what I notice when they mean by opposites attract. Because if opposites attract, then they'll be arguing more than anything. They won't be having conversations. They won't enjoy each other's company. They'll just be arguing. Like opposite attracts, maybe sexually and maybe in terms of like Venus and stuff like that. But overall, this is my interpretation of Xander's relationships in Buffy. Next is Willow Rosenberg. For Willow, I gave her Virgo Sun, Pisces Moon, Cancer Rising, Virgo Venus, and Cancer Mars. Willow Rosenberg is played by Allison Hannigan, and Allison has an Aries Sun, Aries Moon, and an Aquarius Venus. Willow Rosenberg in the show, she's very smart and a nerdy student and friend that develops into a witch through hunting demons with Buffy and the Scooby Gang, aka the Scooby Gang, Giles, Buffy, Xander, and Willow. That's pretty much it. She's very logical. She appears sweet and nice, but I would say she sometimes do some immoral things and reacts in such an emotionally intense way. Like she cheated on Oz with Xander, and spoiler alert, but Willow is gay or bisexual, And when her girlfriend was murdered by humans, she went out on like a dark Willow like vengeance spree where she killed them. She killed 2 of the 3 people that were involved in Tara's death. So like Willow, like sometimes she toes the line and can be morally like gray, if that makes any sense. And I would say people think she's weak, and during the first beginning of the series, people walked all over her, but then throughout the series, she's finding value in herself. And again, the smart and logical part and nerdy part of her is like her Virgo Venus part. I also gave her a Leo sun because, again, she's very sweet and nice, but there's a sort of fieriness to her. Like, I muted. She's a Leo, but she's like an emotional Virgo, feminine type of Leo, not like the traditional masculine type of Leo. Because Willow is clearly a strong person. Yes, she's very sweet and nice, but like just don't mess with her. You know, like the saying, like you gotta watch out for the quiet ones. That's definitely in like Willow's case. You gotta watch out for her.
The next character on Buffy that I'm going to be talking about in terms of Willow is Oz. And for him, he's an Aquarius sun, Aquarius rising, and a Virgo moon. And for Oz is played by Seth Green. Seth has an Aquarius sun, Virgo moon, and a Capricorn Venus. For Oz, I gave him pretty much the same placements as his real life actors astrology. And yeah, Oz was a very like chill sort of person, and he was a love interest to Willow. He was also a werewolf. As yeah, he's very independent, free thinker, intelligent. He's actually an underachiever. He was held back one year, and yeah, he's just an underachiever in school and life. And he's very passive with no real goals, but very open-minded and chill and very supportive. So I would say that Oz was Willow's starter boyfriend, and I'll get more into that later on, but that's just Oz's character and his astrology. Next is Tara, and for Tara, I gave her a Libra Sun, a Pisces Moon, Libra Venus, Virgo Mars, and a Cancer Rising. Tara McClay is played by Amber Benson. Amber has a Capricorn Sun, Leo Moon, and a Pisces Venus. For Tara, Tara's actually the first woman love interest to Willow. And this was during college. She met Willow during college through like via magic club. And again, Willow throughout the series, from majority of the beginning of the series, she was classified as being straight in terms of her relationship with Oz and somewhat with Xander. Not really a relationship, but like a sort of a hookup. But with Tara, it was introduced that Willow was gay. Some people think she's bisexual. You be the judge. My opinion is that Willow is bisexual, and that she can fall in love with both men and women. But in terms of Tara is quiet, she's weird, she's awkward, but she's also sort of sensual and feminine. And she awakens and nurtures Willow's sexuality, sensuality, and magic. There's something very mysterious and sweet about her.
She's soft, but she's also earthy. This is why I gave her a Cancer rising with a Capricorn descendant, because I'll get more to that later, but that's partially because she guided Willow, and like she like sparked something in Willow and awakened something in Willow.
Okay, to get into Willow's relationships, and the theme for Willow's relationships is self-discovery into her dark side. And for Willow and her relationships, we'll start with Oz. To be honest, relationship, in my opinion, was purely based on general interest, curiosity, convenience, and friendship. This was Willow's first real relationship, and this is after she decided to get over Xander. And Oz, like, he noticed her and like he made her feel beautiful and attractive. And pretty much the relationship ended because, well, a couple of different reasons. One was Willow was finally comfortable to embrace more of her sexuality and explore it more. And it was also issues from him cheating on her with a female werewolf. And in terms of the astrology, there's a moon and Venus connection between them. So moon conjunct Oz's moon conjunct Willow's Venus, and Oz and Willow both have opposite, well, Oz is Aquarius sun and a rising, so Oz is opposite Willow's Leo sun. And yeah, so it's a sort of like, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst relationship. It was a very like comfortable, with a bit of tension, but not that much. It was very loving, I would say that. In terms of Tara, it's Willow's first relationship with a girl, and she taught Willow how to embrace her powers in terms of sexuality, her magical powers, her darkness, and her less explored self, and the more complicated sides of her personality. However, the relationship was cut short by the murder of Tara. This led Willow down the dark path, where she kills the humans and went dark Willow on everyone and threatened to destroy the world. And spoiler alert, but Xander was able to calm her down. In terms of astrology between Willow and Tara, I gave them both Cancer risings, so the risings are conjunct. I gave Tara a Libra sun and Willow's a Leo, so their suns are sextiles. I also gave them both Pisces moons because they're both very like sensitive sort of people, and their Marses are sextiles. And yeah, so it's a very like, in terms of astrology and synastry, the relationship is very comfortable, it's very easy, it's very sweet, and it's nice. And even within their own like sort of astrology, they both have like Pisces and Virgo opposites. With Tara, is Pisces moon opposite her Virgo Mars. With Willow, is Pisces moon opposites her Virgo Venus. So between them, they do have oppositions between Virgo and Pisces. Also, Willow's Venus is conjunct Tara's Virgo Mars. So it's also like a cute sort of like relationship between their Venus and Mars placements. And it's just interesting to see like they definitely had good sexual chemistry. Last of Willow's quote unquote romantic relationship was with Xander. And to be honest, I won't consider them a relationship, but more of a hookup. They were childhood best friends who briefly hooked up and cheated with each other when they were in their first healthy romantic relationships in high school. Willow was with Oz during this time, and Xander was with Cordelia. For the longest time, Willow was in love with Xander, but he never noticed and overlooked her. Back then, Willow wasn't as confident as she is, well, was later on throughout Buffy, and she wasn't confident, and she was afraid to put herself out there. But being overlooked by Xander taught her to value herself and to put herself out there and be more open to love and relationships, hence Oz. And in terms of their astrology, again, they both have opposite sun signs. They have square moon signs. They have conjunct Mars signs, so there's like a lot of sexual tension. And they have opposite rising. Well, they have square rising signs. So it's a very interesting mix. It wasn't really meant to be, but they just were curious about each other and wanted to try it out. The next character is Giles, Rupert Giles, and he's played by Anthony Stewart Head. Anthony has a Pisces Sun, Libra Moon, and a Pisces Venus. For Rupert Giles, I gave him a Libra Sun, Virgo Moon, Libra Venus, Scorpio Mars, and Capricorn Rising. For Rupert Giles, he's a librarian, watcher, and father figure to Buffy and the Scooby Gang. He's very disciplined and fair, Libra Sun, Libra Venus, cranky and a bit blunt, which is Capricorn Rising. Scorpio Mars, he's bookish, dislikes technology, which is very traditional, so Capricorn Rising, Virgo Moon. He's very responsible, cool, calm, and collected, dresses very dapper, and has a sharp wit about him. He also has an intense focus. He's not one to mess with, and he doesn't let things go, hence his Scorpio Mars. And if you notice in the show, there's a recurring character who's a demon. His name is Ethan something. Anyway, Giles, just to give you background, Giles was a rebellious youth, and him and Ethan, whatever last name, they did they crossed boundaries and did magic together, pranks. They summoned demons, that kind of crazy stuff. And Giles matured, but his friend didn't. And his friend's always caught, well, his former friend, Ethan, is always causing some sort of trouble. And Giles, if you see the interaction, Giles does not play. And he carries a sort of not necessarily vendetta, but a sort of grudge against him, because Ethan's trying to kill him and the gang, and Giles is not having any of it. Anyway, Rupert, I gave him a Cancer descendant, since his Capricorn is he has a Capricorn ascendant. He's very fatherly, and in some regard, directly, he's very strict and disciplined, but indirectly, he's very fathering, and he's very nurturing in a sort of way. He comes across as just this strict nerd watcher, but he's not just that. He could be very kind and fatherly and nurturing in his own way. It's a bit strange, but yeah, this is Giles's astrology. Next is Jenny, aka Jennifer. Well, Jennifer, aka Jenny Calendar, and Jenny Calendar is played by Rabia Lamort.
I hope I'm saying that right. Lamorti. Rabia has a Cancer sun, and that's all the information that we have about her because she isn't that famous as the other actors. And Jenny Calendar, I gave her a Gemini sun, a Cancer moon, and a Taurus rising, and she was the love interest to Giles. And she's this beautiful, intelligent computer teacher who's also part of a clan that cursed Angel with a soul. And she came into Buffy as a teacher, but she was also had some dishonest intentions. She was also there to keep an eye on Angel and make sure that he's not doing anything to like be to break the curse and to not have a soul anymore. So there's sort of like a duplicitous nature about her. But I gave her Cancer moon because even though there's this duplicitous nature about her, like it's because she did it for her family and for her clan. And very strong like family orientation. But at the same time, like she found a way to make it right for the rest of the gang in the end, using her wit, which is very Gemini. Just to give you a spoiler, Jenny was killed by Angelus, aka Angel's like soulless vampire self. When Buffy and Angel had sex, he lost his soul again, and he went back to being Angelus, which is like his murderous vampire, like I guess alter ego. Yeah, and she was working on finding a way to restore Angel's soul back, and like he caught her doing that, and he just snapped her neck. He snapped her neck. But she was able to discover a spell that could get Angel's soul back before she died, but people didn't realize it until much later. And she's very open, very headstrong. She was a bit weird and offbeat, and this is because she was very into the computers and the internet. And to be honest, back at that time, being on the internet and like conversing on the internet and having internet friends and all that was extremely weird. This was like the late 90s, so that's when computers were and the internet was beginning to take off. So she was just seen as like weird and offbeat, but she had a good heart, and her and Giles clearly loved each other. And it's kind of sad that Giles never really had like a companion around him, but Giles, he slept with Buffy's mother, and he also had a little like side boo towards the middle to end of the show. But it was cute, but it wasn't that serious. It wasn't like a Jenny Calendar situation. Okay, now to talk about the relationship between Buffy and the Scooby Gang. And the Scooby Gang is Buffy, Willow, Xander, and Giles. And the Scooby Gang, like, yes, it's these main characters, but it can also apply to other characters that were part of their dynamic, such as Oz and Tara. But these are the main people from the Scooby Gang. And the Scooby Gang was the sidekicks and partners in her fight against evil. And Buffy wouldn't be Buffy without their dynamic. And the group, Willow gives the group in the group, Willow's role is someone who's reliable, always prepared, and is everyone's confidant. Xander is the Scooby Gang's moral compass and cheerleader. Giles is the group's father figure to Buffy, but to a lesser extent the rest of the Scooby Gang. Note that Buffy's parents were divorced, and Buffy's father rarely made an appearance on Buffy. Like, was like literally he was only there for like 2 episodes, and I think he was played by 2 different guys. But yeah, and pretty much the lessons from each of their relationships is that Buffy teaches her friends how to stand up and fight for themselves. Xander teaches them how to believe in oneself despite the odds, aka the cheerleader. Will teaches her friends about sensitivity, compassion, intelligence, and reliability, how to be there. And Giles guides them and teaches them responsibility and integrity. The strategy between them is that they all have cardinal rising signs. Thus, they're either opposing or squaring each other. Will's sun is opposite Xander's and Buffy's, and sextile to Giles. Giles' sun is trine Xander's and Buffy's. Their moon signs are either opposite, square, or sextile to each other. And lastly, all their Mars signs are trining with each other, which explains like why they're such a dynamic duo. They're all doing something that can benefit everyone else, and they all understand each other's actions for the most part. Next character is Kendra, and Kendra is played by Bianca Lawson. Bianca has a Pisces Sun, Sagittarius Moon, and an Aquarius Venus. And to give you some insight, Kendra was the Slayer calls after Buffy temporarily died between the fight between the Master. And Kendra was like the perfect Slayer, to be honest. Anyways, before I get into all that, she's a Capricorn Sun to me, an Aquarius Moon, and an Aries Rising. Again, she was the perfect Slayer. She was very disciplined and talented. She wasn't a rule breaker. Duty and slaying was very important to her. She actually saw slaying as an honor and a privilege, and she accepted the responsibility, unlike Buffy. And to be honest, it's kind of sad the way like her character dies. Her character was killed by Drusilla. Drusilla hypnotized Kendra and then I guess like killed her using her like fingers or whatever to slit her throat. And it's sad because Kendra was such an interesting character, and there was some crushing going on between her and Xander, so maybe she would have stayed longer on the show. Maybe there would have been a relationship. But I know during that time, interracial relationships weren't that much of a thing on television. This was in the 90s, by the way, the late 90s. It isn't as much of a thing as it is now, so that's maybe part of the reason why. Maybe viewers would have been like, ooh, ew. Yeah, and to be honest, in terms of TV, even though TV was trying to be more inclusive of other characters like minorities, black people, and people of different sexualities, but it was still like pretty like lacking. Even though Buffy's a great show, like the minority characters were just lacking, especially the black characters, just lacking. They could have did a better job with that. But overall, like, she was a good character. Again, very strong, very disciplined, talented, beautiful, strong, talented. She was amazing, to be honest. The next character is Faith, and Faith is played by Eliza Dushku. Eliza has a Capricorn Sun, Libra Moon, and Sagittarius Venus.
Faith is I gave her Sagittarius Sun, Scorpio Moon, Taurus Rising, Capricorn Venus, and Sagittarius Mars. Faith was introduced in the show. She was a Slayer that replaced the other Slayer, Kendra, when she was killed. And Faith, in the show, she was very wild, rebellious, unruly, and very independent. She was a protagonist and an antagonist. And to give you a backstory, she started out as a rebellious Slayer that came from a bad home life, which caused a lot of emotional issues. It wasn't thoroughly explained, but it was implied in the show. And she saw slaying as fun, as opposed to Buffy, who saw it as a responsibility. And while they were, slaying, she accidentally kills a human, and Buffy tries to get her to turn herself in, but Faith doesn't do that. She doesn't want to take responsibility. So instead, she teams up with the big bad for that season, which was the mayor, who offers her stability and protection, which is what she needed in some strange way. And the things for Faith's character is just pleasure, evil, pain, and redemption. Like, at some point, Buffy and Faith get into this big fight. Buffy puts her into a coma, and then later she gets out of the coma and tries to wreak havoc. There's more to it, but in the end, Faith goes back to being a protagonist instead of an antagonist. And even though she projected a tough exterior that's very sensitive and hurt, she was able to overcome it and learn to use her good side and learn to take responsibility. That's why I gave her Sagittarius Sun and Sagittarius Mars, because she was very wild, rebellious, and very independent. She did her own thing, but she couldn't face the responsibilities of her actions. And with mutable signs, yes, they're very changeable, but sometimes they give up before they start anything, or they switch up too fast. And with Faith had to learn to stick the course and to take responsibility and to not get sidetracked. That's why I also gave her a Scorpio moon, because as revenge to Buffy and her friends, she teamed up with their nemesis, the person I was trying to bring everyone down, which was the mayor. So that goes to show you that she was a very spiteful sort of person. And I also gave her a Capricorn Venus because, again, she came from a bad home and she had emotional issues and trust issues, and she lacks faith in others, which is ironic because her name is Faith. But Faith lacked faith in others, and she needed someone to guide her. And for some strange reason, even though the mayor was evil, he did protected her and he did care for her. I guess he looked at her as his underling or his apprentice. But thank God that Buffy put her in a coma, because she probably would have been dead along with him. So girl, you lucky. Hence that Sagittarius part. You lucky. You dodged a bullet, girl. But Faith was a very exciting and interesting character. And yeah, she was exciting and interesting, and she definitely redeems herself in the end. The next character is Spike.
And for Spike, I gave him a Cancer Sun and Cancer Moon, Taurus Venus, Leo Mars, and Leo Rising. Spike is played by James Marsters. James has a Leo Sun, Taurus Moon, and a Libra Venus. Honestly, with Spike, he's like one of the most fascinating and interesting characters, and I loved watching him on Buffy. He was like, even though he did a lot of crazy and messed up things that are unforgivable, like, he was an amazing character. It was so exciting to like watch Spike, even when they try to force that whole like Spike and Buffy hookup down everyone's throats, when it's just like, ew, no. But with Spike, he was an antagonist in the show, and according to the creator Joss Whedon, he was only supposed to be like there for like one episode and then killed off. But they kept expanding Spike's story and pretty much found a way to include him in the main as a main character later on in the series. And then again, it was an antagonist for the majority. Then some sort of like acquaintance to the Scooby Gang. Like, he wasn't necessarily a friend, but nobody really wanted to kill Spike. They just let him be. Like, they let him do his own thing, and they were just annoyed by him. So like an annoying acquaintance. And then somehow he became a hate sex buddy to Buffy, which was like, no. Like, it was good to see the way that James acted as Spike, and the sort of like chemistry, sexual chemistry that Buffy, aka Sarah, and James had together. But to be honest, like, it was cute, and it was like kind of like a guilty pleasure to watch them, like, you know, hook up and all that. But in retrospect, like, their relationship was, or their hookup was just ill. But I'm jumping ahead. Pretty much Spike's backstory, and before I get into his backstory, some of it is mentioned in Angel, and some of it's in Buffy, but it's mostly on Buffy. But yeah, like with Spike, he started out as a shy, bookish poet who was turned by his vampire lover named Drusilla, aka Drew, and he developed this weird, evil but sensitive vampire alter ego Spike, because originally he was like this shy, bookish poet in England, and his name was William. But then he like adopted this like alter ego, like sensitive, evil vampire, punk rock vampire, aka Spike, that craves love and attention and adventure. And themes with Spike is pleasure, evil, pain, and redemption. Like, even as a vampire, he's very sensitive, and he's not like, he's unlike the other vampires. Like, he does his own thing, but he's not really like the other vampires. Like, the other vampires, they don't think for themselves. They're not passionate. They only just like to kill and eat. And Spike, like, he's very passionate. He likes the thrill of the hunt. He's very like into violence. And he has a huge ass ego. Like, his ego is huge, which is not so unusual with other vampires. It's just that his ego is attached to his like romantic relationships and with love, because he's a very sort of romantic sort of vampire. He isn't like an angel who's like dark and broody and ashamed of his vampirism. Like, Spike, he kind of embraces it and he incorporates it into his own sort of character, which is very which is very Leo, which is why I gave him Leo rising and Leo Mars. And it's also very Cancerian, and in some regards, Taurusy, with that sort of Venus rule Venus. Like, he's about pleasure. He's about evil, pain, and redemption. He wants to live life to the fullest, and with all these placements, you can see that. Next, we have Drusilla, and Drusilla is played by Juliet Landau. Juliet has an Aries Sun, Pisces Moon, and an Aries Venus. And with Drusilla, I gave her a Pisces Sun, an Aries Moon, and an Aquarius Rising. With Drusilla, she's the love interest to Spike for the first part of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's this evil, mad, psychic, medium vampire. She's unstable emotionally, prone to random acts of violence and fits of rage and madness. Very sensitive. In the show, prior to her and Spike coming into Sunnydale, she was injured by a mob, I think in Prague. So when she came into Buffy, she couldn't take care of herself. And she was only there for in Buffy, only there for 1 season, 2 seasons. She wasn't there that long. She was actually killed on Angel. And I don't think she ever made an appearance after the 3rd season on Buffy. Anyway, just to give her a backstory, before she was turned into a vampire, she was this deeply religious, pietous, psychic, vulnerable girl who was manipulated, driven mad, tortured, and eventually killed and turned into a vampire by Angel. She also sired Spike, but again, she had psychic abilities when she was human, and then I guess it got transferred into her still when she was a vampire. And also her madness, her craziness, because before she was a vampire, she was driven crazy and tormented by Angel, aka Angelus. And that's why I gave her a Pisces Sun and an Aquarius Rising, because she's very sensitive. She's always sensitive, even as a vampire. And with vampires, they don't just they don't have any souls, but they don't just get rid of their human characteristics. They carry it with them into their vampire being. So before, when she was a human, she was very sensitive and she was driven mad, and when she became a vampire, she retained those characteristics. And she was just very weird. She liked having pets, but she couldn't take care of them. Again, she was very psychic. She could see into the future. She could hypnotize people. Hence how she killed Kendra. And yeah, just an interesting character. I liked her as a character, even though I wanted her dead. She was still a good character. She was acted very well by Juliet. Now to get into Spike's and Drusilla's relationships. Just to say, this is a very unhealthy, oftentimes codependent vampire relationship. But for creator Joss Whedon, I hope I'm saying this name right. Anyway, Joss Whedon envisioned them to be the Sid and Nancy of the vampire world. And Drew in the show was styled as a British Victorian style mixed with 90s heroin chic. Think of the model Kate Moss in the 90s, and Spike with a very punk rock look.
And for the people that don't know, for the youngings, when I say Sid and Nancy, Sid was a member of the British punk rock band, the Sex Pistols. He got into this crazy volatile relationship with an American groupie named Nancy, who had her own problems. Nancy was diagnosed as schizophrenic when she was young. Anyway, Sid and Nancy, they used drugs together, and they were very codependent and abusive with each other. And Nancy was found murdered in their hotel room, and Sid was arrested for it. However, Sid died of a drug overdose while awaiting bail for his trial that was coming up for the murder of Nancy. And the events around their deaths are kind of mysterious, with some people close to them claiming that they made a suicide pact. And that's who Buffy's creator Joss Whedon based Spike and Drusilla on these like crazy people. But again, Drusilla, she's evil, she's mad, she's hella crazy, psychotic vampire. And Spike, he's an evil, hopeless, romantic machismo, aka had a very exaggerated masculinity to him. And Spike loved Drew in the only way a vampire can. He looked after her. He got blood for her. He played along with her delusions, which is like very like cancer of him. And he took care of her even when Drew was in her childlike state and couldn't help herself. And the relationship between Spike and Drew ended because Drew broke up with him and left him for Chaos Demon because she felt he wasn't demon enough for her, aka man enough in supernatural demon evil soul way, and that she also felt that he was in love with Buffy. And between them and their astrology, they both have squared moon signs. I gave Drusilla an Aries moon and Spike a Cancer moon. And they also have opposite rising signs. And I also gave them trine sun signs, so they understood each other. Like Drew took a liking to Spike and turned him, and like they both cared about each other. But Spike was definitely very possessive of Drusilla, and she was like, nope. Like he became sort of bitch made, and that's why she decided to leave him. But yeah, their relationship is interesting, and they're definitely a more exciting element of Buffy. Like Buffy's a very exciting show, but like some elements to me are like boring. Like the Angel and the Buffy thing, like when I first watched it, I thought it was like so cute and adorable, but now looking back at it, like their relationship was kind of boring. Like Angel, like he can get it, but it was just boring. But in terms of Spike and Drusilla, like they brought excitement to the show. And I would say it's kind of funny that like with Spike, the actor that plays him is a Leo, and Drusilla, she's an Aries. And it's crazy to mention that the actress that plays Buffy, Sarah Michelle Gellar, is also an Aries. So there's like that natural chemistry that includes also sexual chemistry that I saw between all of them, which made it like more dynamic in the show, more dynamic. Overall, this is my analysis of the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer's characters. Whew, I am finally done. It was so long, but it was something that I always wanted to do, especially when I was learning about astrology. I wanted to do this for at least 5 years, more like 6 years, but let's just say 5. But yeah, what do you think about the characters?
Grr, arg.